Hi, welcome to Vic and Vern Sports Set. I'm Vern.
I'm Ryan. This is our F1 2025 Singapore Grand Prix at the Marina Bay Circuit, the first ever F1 night race.
Freaking fantastic. Listen here, Marina Bay, 4.94 kilometers long,
Yeah.
19 turns.
Used to be more.
Used to be more. I know, I was reading up on it. Used to be more. Sebastian Vettel. Let's get the boy up here. Well, before we get into that one, check out the topics. We've got Singapore GP, some news, driver standings, which is actually not some predictions, and of course, the lap of Ryan's. Like I said, Sebastian Vettel has won this Grand Prix. Yeah, I've got it. Has won this Grand Prix, the most of it. That is five times he's won it.
Yes, the last time he did was in 2019 by Ferrari.
Yeah, and there's three constructors got the most wins here. It is Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull.
Yeah.
All with 4 victories for this Grand Prix. So let's get Sebastian out of the way. Before we get started to the circuit, let's get up some news there. Last 2 weeks ago, when the Baku race ended, we had old
Leclerc and Sainz.
Leclerc and Sainz shared an airplane supposed to fly into Nizza, but there was a massive storm.
Yeah.
Let's get those two boys there. There you go. Had a massive storm, so they had to land in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took a van.
Yeah.
They
were just enjoying themselves.
Had a little road trip from Italy to Nizza. Not a far drive. I wonder who was driving there.
It was Sainz.
It was Sainz.
It was Carlos.
Carlos was driving there.
They were just having a good time.
I would have loved to be in that van. That would have been so cool. Yeah. Let's get those guys out of the way. Then, of course, we've got some sad news as well.
R.I.P. Roscoe.
Roscoe, I mean, the most famous bulldog on the planet.
Definitely.
I must say...
it was like a son for Hamilton.
It was a son for Hamilton. So, big condolences to Lewis Hamilton there. I know...
it's a dog, but still.
Still, dogs are like family sometimes. So big shout out to Lewis. And, I hope he gets through it. It's a hard time for him. So let's get old Lewis and poor old Roscoe out there.
Yeah.
Singapore Grand Prix, Ryan. No, nothing. Well, before we get into the zombie, Max.
Verstappen.
Let's get into Max there. There you go.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about Max. What has he been done?
He drove his first ever GT3 race around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. If you don't know motorsport, the Nordschleife is the most dangerous track on the planet, unless if it's a street track, then it's the Isle of Man.
Yeah, and did he win?
He won it by a landslide. His first ever race in the Nordschleife. This is not just the Nürburgring. This is the Nordschleife.
Okay. And he won. Good. Yes. He's a good driver, Max.
I mean, this proves to me he's one of the best drivers ever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into the Singapore Grand Prix. A night race, which is always super interesting to watch. Hot as hell, I heard.
It is. It's got it's one of the
heat waves.
It's one of the most challenging tracks
for a driver because of the heat.
Even though it's at night.
Yeah, but it's extremely hot, extremely humid, and it's always a very challenging circuit for the drivers. So, Ryan, before we get to your lap, who do you think? Who's gonna do well in this Grand Prix? Or you think it's the same boys as always?
I'm gonna go with an upset.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go fully Ferrari delusion. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go George Russell.
Yeah.
Second, I'm gonna go for Lewis.
Yeah.
Third, I'm going for Lando.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Max.
The thing is, Max has never won in Singapore.
I think this is time.
Red Bull has been shit in Singapore for the last couple of years.
But I think Max is on a run. He's on a roll.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at Ryan's lap there.
Tell me about that.
So, I hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, and this is my lap of the Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore. We start off with the first corner. We go down to third gear. Another little switchback. Go down to second gear. And now we're going to these tricky corners. This one you go into third gear. Now we go into the longest straight off the whole track, which you go into the DRS. There you go down to third gear as well. Now you go to this little tricky second gear hairpin. Now we're going to a third gear corner, which is also kind of a hairpin, but it's not. It's like a 90-degree corner. Now we come to the... Now there's actually some history of this corner. This used to be the Singapore sling. Basically, this was like a really tight... I don't know how to say, like, chicane. It was just like a tricky corner. Like, so many drivers back then from 2008 to 2013, it was taking out drivers left, right and center. Like Raikkonen or Kobayashi, to name a few people. And then it was reprofiled in 2014 to make a more boring corner. I would like to see this back actually, because it will make it more fun. And in 2023, Russell binned it on the final lap. This corner did go down to fourth gear. Now to this little chicane, you go down to third gear. And we're going to one of the tightest corners on the whole track. There you go into second gear for this really, really tricky hairpin. Now we're going to the third DRS under this track. Now you go down into second gear. And now here comes the new change. Now here was another change of the track. Back then, like from 2022, there was a tunnel where there was like a little like a double chicane at that part, which is now straight, which I'm glad. But the thing is, it's actually not going to be permanent. The reason they did it is because they're reconstructing the stadium they have at that section. So that means the road was closed, so Formula 1 can't use it. So that means probably when the stadium is finished again, then they'll probably race in the old layout, which is a shame. There you go down to third gear. And that's this little chicane. Now we go up the final corner into fifth gear. And it's a 129.3.
Jeez, Ryan, is that a challenging track to drive?
It is.
Can't make mistakes or land up in a wall.
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't race this in a Setta Corsa. I raced it on the F1 game because there wasn't an official like extension or mod for the new layouts. I mean, there is one, but it's a paid mod.
Okay.
So I didn't decide to do it.
So let's get into the driver standings quickly. As we know, Piastri 25 points ahead of Lando Norris, and a hell of a lot further back is Max Verstappen there.
Yeah.
I still think it's between Lando and Oscar who gets it. But I don't think none of them are going to win this Grand Prix this weekend. I think it's going to.
I don't think so either.
I think somebody else is going to win. Constructors, it's practically over there. We
don't even need to discuss it.
But it's getting tight between
second,
definitely
third, and
between
fourth. Mercedes, Ferrari, Red
Bull. That second spot is still open for grabs.
Yes.
That's going to make this season a little bit more interesting.
Yes.
Still, a very big surprise for me at the bottom of the table is Alpine. Far off at the bottom. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a shame.
Deserved.
But that's our little preview of the Singapore Grand Prix. Join us on Sunday for the review of that Grand Prix. And of course, as always, shout out to Uncle Roy and Uncle Brian. Hope you guys are doing well. And to everybody out there, have a fantastic time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And of course, join us on Sunday evening. Everybody out there, take care, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.